She took her friend's cleaning shift and fell in love with the man she didn't know was the CEO. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's dive into the story. Imagine you're just a regular girl, struggling with bills and dreaming of a better future. You agree to take on a cleaning shift for a friend, not knowing that the man you're about to meet will change your life in ways you could never have imagined. Let's go back to our main character. Emma Brooks had no idea what she was getting herself into when she agreed to take her best friend's cleaning shift at an office building in downtown New York. The night had been dreary, the air thick with fog, and Emma felt the weight of the world on her shoulders. With a second-hand dress that barely fit and shoes that had seen better days, she didn't belong in this shiny corporate world. But she had promised Jenny, her best friend, that she'd cover for her tonight. Her shift started at 8 p.m., and despite being exhausted from working her day job as a waitress, Emma was determined to honor her commitment. She took a deep breath and entered the building, her footsteps echoing through the empty lobby. The polished floors gleamed under the soft overhead lights, making everything feel so much more glamorous than the small, cramped apartment she called home. As Emma grabbed the cleaning supplies, she noticed the quietness of the building. Most of the offices were already dark, except for one near the end of the hallway. She figured it was just one more office to tidy up, but she had no idea it would lead her to someone who was about to turn her world upside down. The office door was slightly ajar, and as Emma stepped inside, she froze. Sitting behind a large, sleek desk, his face illuminated by the glow of a computer screen, was a man she didn't recognize. He was dressed in a sharp suit, looking completely out of place in the middle of the night. His dark hair was neatly styled, and he was so absorbed in his work that he didn't notice her at first. Emma cleared her throat, trying to get his attention. "Hi, I'm here to clean," she said nervously, her voice shaking slightly. The man looked up, blinking as if he had just been pulled from a deep thought. For a brief moment his eyes widened with surprise, but then he smiled warmly. "Oh hey, I didn't expect anyone tonight," he said, his voice smooth and confident. Emma's heart skipped a beat, but she quickly reminded herself that this was just another person she was supposed to clean for. Nothing special. As she began tidying up around the office, she stole glances at the man. There was something about him, something intriguing. He wasn't like the usual stiff corporate types she saw at her waitress job. This man seemed different, more real. His casual demeanor, despite the formal suit, made him seem approachable, and she found herself oddly comfortable in his presence. As she worked, the man started to talk, asking her about her life. She wasn't used to sharing her personal struggles with strangers, but something about his calm, understanding presence made her open up. She told him about her dream of becoming an artist, about the struggles she faced to make ends meet, and how hard it was to keep her small apartment in the city. He listened intently, not once interrupting her, which made her feel heard in a way she hadn't in a long time. She glanced at the clock, realizing her shift was almost over. "I'll finish up here and let you get back to your work," she said, packing up her cleaning supplies. "It's no problem. I'll be out of your way," she added, already walking toward the door. But just as she was about to leave, he stood up, and for the first time, he looked directly at her with an intensity that caught her off guard. "You're not just cleaning, are you?" he asked, his tone suddenly serious. Emma paused, unsure of how to respond. "I mean, no, I'm just helping a friend," she said, her voice faltering slightly. "You're not just cleaning, Emma, you're also making a difference. And that's something rare," he said, his voice softening. "I'm Liam Parker, by the way. But I guess you already figured that out, right?" Emma blinked in surprise, her mind racing as the name registered. Liam Parker, CEO of Parker Enterprises, one of the wealthiest men in the city. She hadn't known he was in the office that night, and now it hit her she had just been cleaning for a billionaire. But before she could say anything, he smiled again, this time with a hint of mischief. "I'll make sure your friend gets paid for this shift," he added, a look of quiet admiration in his eyes. Emma couldn't believe what she was hearing. She had no idea that the man she had just spent the last hour with was the CEO of one of the most powerful companies in the world, and she certainly never expected to find herself standing face to face with him, wondering how her life would change from this moment forward. After Emma had left the office that night, she couldn't stop thinking about the man she had met. She had no idea that Liam Parker, the man she had casually conversed with while cleaning, was the CEO of Parker Enterprises. She had walked out of the office feeling a mix of embarrassment and confusion, but something kept tugging at her mind. He had been so kind, so genuine, and she couldn't help but wonder why someone like him would be in a place like that, talking to someone like her. The next few days felt like a blur. Emma had returned to her life, going back to her regular shifts at the diner, but something had shifted. The moment she walked back into that small, cramped apartment of hers, she felt the weight of the world even heavier than before. Her dreams of becoming an artist felt even more distant, and she couldn't shake the thought of Liam from her mind. She told herself it was nothing, just a random encounter, but her heart knew better. Days passed, and Emma found herself constantly thinking back to their brief conversation. She remembered how he had listened intently when she spoke about her struggles, how he had shown interest in her passion for art. It was rare for anyone to listen to her like that, especially in a world that seemed so indifferent to her dreams. On the 5th day after the cleaning shift, Emma was back at the diner. It was a slow afternoon, and she was wiping down the counter when her phone buzzed. It was a message from Jenny. Hey, I think you left something in the office, Liam called. He said he'll be sending someone over with it. Emma stared at the message for a moment, confusion creeping in. What could Liam have possibly wanted to send her? She hadn't left anything behind. She quickly sent a message back. I didn't leave anything. Is this some kind of mistake? Before she could put her phone down, another message appeared. No mistake. He said it's important. Check your door. Her heart raced, and she quickly slipped her phone into her pocket. What was going on? As she walked out of the diner later that evening, she saw a sleek black car parked outside her building. Standing next to it was a man dressed in a suit, definitely not the kind of delivery person she was used to seeing in her neighborhood. As she approached, the man smiled at her. "Miss Brooks?" he asked politely. Emma hesitated for a moment. "Yes?" The man handed her an envelope. "This is from Mr. Parker," he said before turning and walking away without another word. Emma opened the envelope with trembling hands, her eyes scanning the contents. It was an invitation to an art gala high-end event that she would never have imagined herself attending. The invitation had her name on it, with a note written in neat handwriting. I hope you can make it. I would love to see your work featured. Confusion washed over her as she reread the note. Why would Liam Parker want her at an event like this? She barely knew him, but deep down she knew this was something big, something that could change everything for her. The next day, Emma found herself standing in front of the gallery entrance, unsure if she should walk in. Her heart pounded in her chest. She had no business being here. She had no connections, no experience in the art world, but something inside her urged her to step forward. When she entered the gallery, she was immediately taken aback by the luxury around her. The place was packed with well-dressed people, sipping wine and admiring the art. It felt like a different world, one she didn't belong to. She nervously adjusted her dress, which was nothing compared to the designer gowns she saw around her. But before she could second-guess herself, a familiar voice called out from behind her. "I'm glad you made it." Emma turned, her breath catching in her throat. It was Liam, standing just a few feet away from her. He was wearing a perfectly tailored suit, his dark hair looking even more polished than it had the last time they met. "I didn't think you'd actually show up," he said with a warm smile, clearly pleased to see her. Emma was speechless for a moment, unsure of how to respond. "I didn't know what to expect," she said, her voice trembling. "I never thought I'd be invited to something like this." "Well, I'm glad you came," Liam said, his expression softening. "I think your art deserves to be seen. It's rare to find someone with such passion and honesty. You have a gift, Emma." Emma's heart skipped a beat at his words. She had always dreamed of being recognized for her art, but this felt like a dream she never thought would come true. "Thank you," she whispered, feeling a mix of gratitude and disbelief. Liam smiled and gestured toward the exhibit. "I'd like to introduce you to some people," he said. "This could be the start of something incredible for you." As they walked through the gallery, Emma's nerves slowly began to fade. She couldn't believe she was here, surrounded by people who appreciated art, by people who could make her dreams a reality. And as she glanced over at Liam, she realized that this moment, this opportunity, was only possible because of that one simple act of kindness, the kindness of a stranger who had changed her life forever. As the night of the art gala unfolded, Emma couldn't help but feel like she was walking in a dream. She had spent most of her life struggling to get by, trying to make ends meet, and yet here she was, surrounded by people who had everything she had ever dreamed of: wealth, connections, opportunities. She couldn't help but feel like an outsider, dressed in a simple yet elegant dress that didn't compare to the high-end gowns the other women wore. Still, Liam's kind words kept echoing in her mind, reminding her that this was her chance. As she walked alongside him, he introduced her to several influential people, all of whom praised her art and expressed genuine interest in her work. It was overwhelming, and yet exhilarating at the same time. She found herself talking to people who had spent years building careers in the art world, but none of it felt intimidating. With Liam by her side, she felt like maybe, just maybe, she belonged here. As the evening wore on, Emma found herself in a quiet corner of the gallery, sipping on a glass of champagne. She had always been the quiet one, the one who hid her dreams behind a veil of self-doubt. But tonight, something was different. She felt a warmth in her chest, a sense of belonging that had eluded her for so long. She glanced around, and there he was, Liam, standing across the room, engaged in conversation with a group of investors. He looked every bit the part of a successful CEO, his demeanor confident and his presence commanding. But what struck her most was how genuine he had been with her, from the moment they met. He had never treated her like just another person to impress, and that honesty was something she hadn't experienced before. Just as she was about to look away, their eyes met across the room. Liam smiled, and without hesitation, he excused himself from the group and made his way over to her. "Emma, I'm glad you could make it tonight," he said, his voice warm and sincere. "It means a lot to me that you're here." Emma smiled nervously, unsure of what to say. "I never thought I'd be here, honestly," she admitted. "I never imagined this could happen for me." Liam leaned in slightly, his gaze soft. "You deserve this, Emma. You have an incredible talent, and I'm just happy to help you get noticed." Emma felt a flutter in her chest at his words. The kindness he had shown her was more than she ever expected, and now, standing here with him, in a room full of people who respected her work, she was starting to believe it herself. "Thank you, Liam," she said quietly, the weight of the evening settling in. "I don't know what to say." "You don't have to say anything," Liam replied with a smile. "Just keep doing what you love, and everything will fall into place." He paused for a moment, looking around the gallery before turning his attention back to her. "In fact, I'd like to do something special for you. If you're open to it, I'd love to help you with your next project, maybe even sponsor your first solo exhibition." Emma's breath caught in her throat. "What?" she asked, barely able to believe what she was hearing. "You would really do that for me?" "Of course," Liam said, his eyes meeting hers with sincerity. "I believe in you, Emma. You have something unique, and the world deserves to see it. I'll take care of everything, from the space to the promotion. All you have to do is create." Emma was speechless. The idea of having her own exhibition, sponsored by someone like Liam, seemed too good to be true. She had always dreamed of it, but never in her wildest imagination did she think it would actually happen. She felt a lump form in her throat as she tried to find her words. "I don't even know how to thank you," she finally said, her voice thick with emotion. "You've already given me more than I ever thought possible." Liam smiled again, his expression softening. "You don't need to thank me. Just do what you love, and that will be enough. I'm just happy to be part of your journey." Emma looked at him, her heart swelling with gratitude and disbelief. How had she gone from struggling to make ends meet to standing here with a billionaire CEO offering to sponsor her art? It felt surreal. But in that moment, she realized something. This wasn't just about the money or the opportunity. It was about believing in herself, in her dreams, and in the kindness of others. And for the first time in her life, she truly felt like she was on the right path. As the night came to a close, Emma felt a sense of peace wash over her. This was just the beginning of a new chapter, one where she wasn't just a struggling artist anymore. She was someone with potential, someone who had finally been given a chance. And as Liam walked her to the door, he gave her one last smile. "I'm looking forward to seeing where your art takes you," he said. "This is just the start." Emma nodded, her heart full. "Thank you, Liam, for everything." And as she stepped out into the night, she couldn't help but smile, knowing that this was only the beginning of something incredible. As the weeks passed, Emma's life began to transform in ways she could have never imagined. Liam kept his promise. He arranged everything for her first solo art exhibition, It was an incredible feeling, something she had dreamed about for years, but never thought would come true. She spent countless hours in her small studio apartment, pouring her heart and soul into her artwork, knowing that this was her chance to finally be recognized for her talent. The night of her exhibition arrived, and Emma stood in front of the gallery, her heart pounding with nerves. The walls were lined with her paintings, vibrant and full of life, each one telling a story of her struggles, hopes, and dreams. As the guests began to arrive, Emma felt the weight of the moment settle in. These were the people who could make or break her career, the ones who could turn her passion into something real. She saw familiar faces from the gala, people who had supported her from the beginning. Liam was there too, of course, standing by her side with that reassuring smile of his. She couldn't help but feel overwhelmed by the generosity he had shown her. It was more than just the sponsorship, it was the belief he had in her, the way he made her feel like she was worthy of this opportunity. As the night went on, Emma found herself talking to guests, explaining the inspiration behind each piece, and seeing the genuine appreciation in their eyes. It was a humbling experience, and it made her realize just how far she had come. A few hours into the exhibition, Liam approached her with a glass of champagne in hand. "How are you holding up?" he asked, his voice warm and comforting. "It's incredible," Emma replied, her voice full of emotion. "I never thought this would be possible. I'm so grateful for everything you've done for me." Liam smiled, his eyes softening. "You did the hard part, Emma. You created the art. I just made sure the world could see it." Emma looked at him, feeling a mixture of gratitude and admiration. There was something about the way he spoke to her, the way he believed in her, that made her feel like she could achieve anything. "I still don't know how to thank you," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "You've given me so much." "You don't need to thank me," Liam replied. "Seeing you succeed is enough." As the evening came to a close, Emma realized something important. She had spent so many years doubting herself, feeling like she wasn't worthy of success or happiness. But now, standing in front of a gallery filled with her work, she knew that she was capable of so much more than she had ever believed. Liam had helped her discover her potential. But ultimately, it was her own determination that had gotten her this far. The exhibition was a success. People admired her work, and many even made inquiries about buying pieces. It was a dream come true, but what struck her the most was how she had found her own voice, her own confidence, through this journey. And it wasn't just about the art. It was about the person she had become, the woman who had found the courage to follow her dreams, no matter how impossible they seemed. In the weeks that followed, Emma's career continued to blossom. She received commissions from collectors and invitations to showcase her work at prestigious galleries. But beyond the professional success, what mattered most was the personal growth she had experienced. She had finally learned to believe in herself. One evening, as Emma was finishing up a new painting in her studio, she received a message from Liam. "Asterisk, I hope you're doing well. I wanted to let you know that I'm incredibly proud of you. You've come so far, and I know this is just the beginning." Asterisk. Emma smiled as she read the message, her heart swelling with pride. She had come so far from the nervous girl who had once doubted her abilities. She had become someone who was not only an artist, but someone who was finally living her dream. Later that week, Liam invited her to dinner to celebrate the success of her exhibition. As they sat across from each other in a cozy restaurant, Liam raised his glass. "To you, Emma," he said, his eyes warm. "To your talent, your courage, and your future." Emma clinked her glass with his, feeling a sense of peace she had never known before. "To us," she said, her smile genuine. "To the journey that led us here." As the night went on, they talked about everything: the future, their shared love for art, and the way they had both found something unexpected in each other. And for Emma, the most important realization of all was that her success was not just about the art, the gallery, or the recognition. It was about the connections she had made, the people who had believed in her, and the way she had finally found her place in the world. And as she looked across the table at Liam, she couldn't help but feel that, no matter what happened next, she was exactly where she was meant to be. As the months went by, Emma's life continued to change in ways she had never imagined. Her art was beginning to gain recognition in the city, and her name was becoming known in the world of contemporary art. She had received numerous invitations to showcase her work in other galleries, and she had even started selling pieces to private collectors. The dream she had once thought was impossible was now becoming her reality. But amid all the success, there was one thing that had been weighing on her mind: the growing feelings she had for Liam. At first, she had brushed them aside, telling herself that he was just a mentor, a benefactor who had helped her achieve her dreams. But as they spent more time together, Emma began to realize that what she felt for Liam went beyond gratitude or friendship. There was something more, something deeper that she couldn't ignore. Liam, for his part, had always been supportive of her career, but there was a sense of distance between them, something unspoken that neither of them addressed. He had been so kind, so generous with his time and resources, but Emma couldn't help but wonder if he saw her as more than just an artist he had helped launch. One evening, after a particularly successful art show, Emma found herself sitting in the cozy restaurant where she and Liam often met for dinner. It was a small, intimate place, the kind where they could talk for hours without being interrupted. Liam had just finished praising her for the success of her latest exhibition when he fell silent for a moment, his gaze drifting to the window as he seemed to gather his thoughts. "Emma," he said finally, his voice softer than usual, "there's something I need to tell you." Emma felt her heart race, unsure of what was coming next. "What is it?" she asked, trying to keep her voice steady. Liam took a deep breath, his fingers tapping nervously on the edge of his glass. "I've been thinking a lot about everything lately," he continued. "About how much I've admired you, your strength, your passion, your ability to create something beautiful out of nothing. And, well, I've realized something." Emma's heart pounded in her chest, her breath catching in her throat. "What have you realized?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Liam looked at her then, his eyes filled with emotion. "I've realized that I care about you, Emma, more than I've allowed myself to admit." Emma's mind raced. She had always felt that something was there, but hearing him say it aloud was a different matter entirely. She had to blink several times as if processing what he had just confessed. "I care about you too," she said, her voice trembling. "I think I've known that for a while, but I didn't know how to say it." Liam smiled softly, relief washing over his face. "I've been afraid, Emma. Afraid of ruining the bond we have, afraid of complicating everything. But I don't want to hide this anymore. I want to be honest with you." Emma's heart swelled at his words, but a part of her still hesitated. "But what about everything else?" she asked. "Your work, my career, the world we're both in, can we really make this work?" Liam reached across the table, taking her hand in his. "I don't have all the answers, Emma, but I do know that I want to try. You've already changed my life in ways I never expected, and I don't want to lose that. I don't want to lose you." Emma's heart fluttered, and for the first time in a long while, she felt like everything was falling into place. The uncertainty that had clouded her thoughts for so long seemed to lift, replaced by the warmth of the moment. "I don't want to lose you either," she said softly. "I'm scared, but I want to try too. I think we owe it to ourselves." As they sat there, hand in hand, the world outside the restaurant seemed to fade away. In that moment, it was just the two of them, their shared journey, and the future they had yet to explore together. After that night, things between them began to change. They spent more time together, not just as mentor and mentee, but as two people who had found something deeper, something real. They supported each other through the ups and downs of their respective worlds, Liam with his business and Emma with her art. And despite the challenges they faced, their relationship only grew stronger. Liam continued to be her biggest supporter, and Emma became someone who no longer doubted her worth or her place in the world. She had finally found her confidence, not just in her art, but in her heart. And as they took steps toward building a life together, Emma realized that the love she had found with Liam wasn't just a fairy tale, it was something real, something worth fighting for. It was the beginning of a new chapter in both of their lives, one filled with love, trust, and the promise of a future they could create together. As Emma and Liam continued to grow closer, their lives seemed to intertwine in ways neither of them had anticipated. The connection they shared had moved beyond the art gallery and business meetings. It was real, it was deep, and it was becoming impossible to ignore. Emma found herself waking up every day with a sense of excitement, knowing that the man who had once been just a mentor was now someone she cared about deeply, someone who made her feel understood, seen, and loved in a way she had never experienced before. It wasn't just the art world that had changed for Emma. Liam had helped her see herself in a new light, one where her dreams were no longer out of reach. Her artwork was being displayed in some of the finest galleries, and her name was becoming recognized by collectors and curators. She had even started teaching art classes, sharing her passion with others, something she had always wanted to do but never believed she could. However, with the growing success came new challenges. Emma's relationship with Liam, while filled with love and support, was still complicated. Their worlds were vastly different. Liam was the CEO of a successful business empire, and Emma was a rising artist, still learning to navigate her newfound success. There were moments when she felt the weight of their differences, especially when it came to the expectations of those around them. People started to notice their relationship, and while most were happy for them, some couldn't help but speculate. The whispers of "how long will this last?" or "is she only with him for his money?" occasionally crept into Emma's mind, and they stung more than she cared to admit. She had always been independent, and the thought of being seen as someone who had used Liam for success made her uncomfortable. But every time those doubts crept in, Liam was there, steady and unwavering. He reassured her with his words, his actions, and his love. One evening, after an art event where Emma had been the center of attention, the two of them sat in a quiet corner of their favorite cafe, the one where they had first talked about art, life, and their dreams. Emma was quiet, stirring her coffee absent-mindedly, lost in thought. Liam noticed her silence and reached across the table, gently taking her hand in his. "What's going on, Emma?" he asked softly, his eyes searching hers. She hesitated for a moment, then sighed, her shoulders dropping slightly. I don't know, Liam. Sometimes I feel like people are judging me, like they think I'm only here because of you," she admitted, her voice tinged with uncertainty. Liam's expression softened, and he gave her hand a reassuring squeeze. "I know it's tough," he said, his voice calm and steady, "but I don't care what anyone else thinks. What matters is what we have, what we're building together. No one else's opinion changes the truth of who we are and what we mean to each other." Emma looked at him, the warmth of his words melting away the doubts that had settled in her chest. She knew he was right. They had something real, something worth fighting for. "I'm just scared, Liam. Scared that I'll lose myself in all of this, in all the success and the attention," she confessed. "I've worked so hard to get where I am, and I don't want to lose who I am in the process." Liam's gaze softened, and he stood up, moving around the table to sit beside her. He gently turned her to face him, his hands resting on her shoulders. "You won't lose yourself, Emma," he said firmly. "You're already everything you need to be. I'm here because of who you are, not what you've accomplished. I believe in you, in your talent, in your heart. Don't ever doubt that." Emma looked into his eyes, the love and sincerity she saw there filling her with a sense of peace. She had always feared losing herself in the pursuit of her dreams, but in that moment she realized that her dreams were not a separate part of her. They were a part of who she was, and Liam understood that. They didn't have to sacrifice who they were to be together. Instead, they could lift each other up, support each other's dreams, and create a future where they both thrived. As the evening went on, they continued to talk about their hopes and fears, sharing the quiet moments that had become so precious to them. They made a promise to each other, to always stay true to who they were, to never let the world change them, and to face whatever challenges came their way, together. From that day forward, Emma felt a renewed sense of confidence. She was no longer afraid of being seen as just a successful artist or the girlfriend of a wealthy CEO. She was Emma Brooks, a woman who had fought for her dreams, who had built her career from the ground up, and who was loved for who she truly was. And with Liam by her side, she knew she could face anything the future held. Months passed, and Emma and Liam's relationship grew stronger with each passing day. The challenges that once seemed daunting no longer felt insurmountable. They had found their rhythm, a balance between their careers, their love for each other, and the life they were building together. But as much as things had changed, one thing remained constant: the deep connection they shared, one that neither of them had expected but both cherished. Emma had never thought she would find someone who truly understood her, someone who saw her not just as an artist, but as a person with hopes, dreams, and vulnerabilities. And Liam, who had always lived a life dictated by expectations and responsibilities, had found peace in a love that was raw and genuine, something that didn't come with a price tag or a set of rules. Their relationship was real, and it was theirs. One evening, after a long day of meetings and gallery showings, Emma and Liam sat on the balcony of their apartment, the city skyline spread out before them. The night air was cool, and the lights of the city sparkled below, but in the quiet of their shared space, everything felt peaceful. Emma leaned against Liam's shoulder, her fingers tracing patterns on the railing as they both looked out at the view. It was moments like this that Emma treasured, moments of stillness, where everything seemed to slow down and she could just be with him. "Liam," she said softly, breaking the silence. Do you ever think about what the future holds? Liam turned his head to look at her, a thoughtful expression on his face. All the time, he replied, but not in the way I used to. When I was younger, I used to think about success in terms of business, money, and power. But now, he paused, taking her hand in his. Now, I think about the future in terms of us, what we're building together. I think about how I want to keep growing with you no matter what happens. I want us to keep dreaming, keep supporting each other, and see where life takes us. Emma smiled at his words, feeling a warmth spread through her chest. It was exactly how she had felt for so long, but hearing him say it out loud made everything feel so much more real. I think about that too, she said, her voice steady. I used to worry so much about how I would make my dreams come true, but now I just know that as long as we're together, anything is possible. I don't need to have all the answers. I just need to keep following my heart and trust that we'll figure it out. Liam squeezed her hand, pulling her a little closer. You've already figured it out, Emma. You've come so far, and I'm proud of you. You've built a life for yourself, one that's not defined by anyone else's expectations, but by your own passion and drive. I'm just here to support you, to be with you, and to love you. Emma felt a lump form in her throat as she looked up at him. It was the first time she truly realized how much she had changed, how far she had come. She had once been a girl full of self-doubt, unsure of her place in the world, but now she was someone who was living her dream, and with someone who believed in her every step of the way. I've never had someone like you in my life, she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. I'm so grateful for you, Liam. For everything. Liam smiled softly, brushing a strand of hair from her face. And I'm grateful for you, Emma. You make me believe in things I never thought possible. Together, we're unstoppable. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of excitement and planning. Emma's art continued to gain momentum, and she had the opportunity to showcase her work in several prestigious galleries around the world. With Liam's support, she was able to travel to places she had always dreamed of visiting, to meet collectors, critics, and artists who inspired her. It was everything she had ever wanted, but it didn't come without its own set of challenges. The pressure to keep creating, to keep moving forward, sometimes felt overwhelming, but through it all, Liam was there. He was her rock, her sounding board, and her biggest cheerleader. He always knew how to calm her fears, how to remind her of her worth, and how to help her see that the journey was just as important as the destination. And even when things were difficult, even when Emma questioned whether she could keep up with the demands of her career and personal life, Liam was by her side, reminding her that they were in this together. Then, one day, as they walked through the park near their apartment, Liam turned to Emma, his expression serious yet warm. I've been thinking, he said, pausing for a moment. I want to take the next step with you. I want to build a future with you, one that's not just about success and achievements, but about love, family, and everything we've dreamed of. Emma's heart skipped a beat, the words he spoke resonating deep within her. She knew what he meant. And she realized in that moment that this was the future she had always wanted. A future that didn't just include her dreams, but also the love they shared. I want that too, Liam, she said, her voice steady with certainty. I want to build that future with you. As they continued walking hand in hand, Emma knew that the path ahead might not always be easy, but it would be theirs. And together, they could face anything. They had built something beautiful, and with each passing day, they would continue to build it, stronger than ever. As Emma and Liam continued their journey together, their bond only deepened. They had overcome so many obstacles, and with each new challenge, they grew stronger. Emma had always been the kind of person who kept her emotions close to her chest, afraid of letting anyone in too deeply, but Liam had changed that. He made her feel safe, secure, and most importantly, he made her believe in herself. As the months passed, Emma found herself not only flourishing in her art career, but also discovering new sides of herself she had never known existed. Liam, too, had changed. Though he had always been successful, he had never known what it felt like to have someone by his side who truly saw him, someone who loved him for who he was, not for what he had accomplished. Together, they had built something real, something strong, and neither of them wanted to let it go. One evening, as they sat in the quiet of their apartment, Emma turned to Liam, her eyes soft with emotion. Do you ever think about the future? She asked, her voice almost a whisper. Liam, who had been watching the city lights twinkle outside the window, turned to face her. He had always been a man who had his life planned out, always thinking ahead, always in control. But with Emma, he had learned to embrace the unknown, to allow life to unfold naturally. "I think about it every day," he said, his voice steady. "But I don't think about it in the way I used to. I used to be obsessed with success, with climbing the ladder, with being the best. But now, with you, I think about the future differently. I think about what we can build together, what we can create. I think about the life we want, the family we want to build, the adventures we want to have." Emma's heart swelled at his words. It was everything she had always wanted, everything she had dreamed of but never truly believed was possible. She had always put her dreams of a family and a future on hold, thinking they were too far out of reach. But now she saw that they were closer than ever. "I want that too," she said softly, her voice trembling with emotion. "I want to build a life with you, a life where we can both follow our dreams, but also have the love and support we need to make it through everything life throws at us." Liam smiled, his eyes filled with warmth and affection. "And we will," he said, his voice full of certainty. "I know we will." The next few weeks were filled with more milestones and moments of joy. Emma's career continued to soar, and she was invited to showcase her work at galleries around the world. Her art had become a symbol of hope and perseverance, and she was finally living the life she had always dreamed of. But as much as her success meant to her, what mattered most was the life she was building with Liam. One afternoon, while they were walking through the park, Liam turned to Emma with a smile that made her heart skip a beat. "I've been thinking," he said, his voice a little nervous. "We've come so far, and we've built something incredible. But I think it's time to take the next step. Emma, will you marry me?" Emma's breath caught in her throat. For a moment, everything seemed to stop, and she looked at Liam, her mind racing. She had never imagined a proposal like this, not in her wildest dreams. But in that moment, as she saw the sincerity in his eyes, she realized that this was the next step in their journey, the one they had both been waiting for. "Yes," she whispered, her voice choked with emotion. "Yes, I will marry you." Liam's smile widened, and he pulled her into his arms, holding her tightly, as if he never wanted to let go. In that moment, everything felt right. Their love, their journey, and their future. It was all coming together. The proposal was simple but perfect, and as they stood there in the park, surrounded by the beauty of the world, Emma knew that this was just the beginning. They had a lifetime ahead of them, a lifetime of love, growth, and adventure. Together, they would face whatever came their way, and they would do it hand in hand. Over the next few months, they began planning their wedding. But more than that, they began planning their future. They talked about the life they wanted to build, the family they wanted to start, and the dreams they still wanted to chase. And as Emma looked at Liam, she realized that she had found everything she had ever wanted, not just in her art, but in the love they shared. Their journey had been full of twists and turns, but through it all, they had found their way to each other. They had proven that love was not about perfection or having everything figured out. It was about supporting each other through the highs and the lows, about finding someone who would always be there, no matter what. And as Emma stood by Liam's side, looking forward to their future, she knew that this was the love story she had always dreamed of. A love story that had begun with a simple act of kindness and had grown into something beautiful, something real. As Emma and Liam's wedding day approached, their lives felt like a dream that was unfolding in front of them. The excitement and love they shared grew with each passing day, and everything they had worked for together was falling into place. Their relationship had started as an unexpected, beautiful journey, but now it was leading them to the ultimate commitment, the promise of a shared future. They had spent months planning their wedding, but beyond the details of the ceremony, what mattered most was the life they were about to build together. On the day of their wedding, Emma stood in front of the mirror, looking at herself in her wedding dress. It was a simple yet elegant gown, nothing too extravagant, but to her, it was perfect. Her heart was racing with anticipation. She thought about everything she had been through, the struggles, the dreams, and the fears, and how, through it all, she had found someone who loved her for exactly who she was. Liam, the man who had believed in her when no one else did, who had stood by her through every high and low, and who was now standing at the altar, waiting for her. Emma took a deep breath, her eyes misting with tears as she remembered the journey that had led them here. She was no longer the insecure artist she once was, unsure of her place in the world. She had found her confidence, her purpose, and most importantly, she had found love, the kind of love that changed everything. As she walked down the aisle, Emma's heart swelled with emotion. The room was filled with friends and family, all gathered to celebrate the love between her and Liam. And there, standing at the front, was Liam, his eyes fixed on her with a look of pure adoration. The moment their eyes met, time seemed to stand still. In that instant, Emma knew that this was where she was meant to be. This was her moment, her happily ever after. When Emma reached Liam, he took her hand, and they exchanged a smile that spoke volumes no words were necessary. The vows they exchanged were simple but meaningful. Liam spoke first, his voice steady yet full of emotion. "Emma, from the moment I met you, I knew that you were special. You've brought so much love and light into my life, and I promise to spend the rest of my days making sure you feel cherished and loved. I vow to be your partner, your support, and your best friend for as long as we both shall live." Emma smiled, her heart overflowing as she took Liam's hand in hers. "Liam, you've been my greatest strength. You believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. And you've shown me that love is not about perfection, but about accepting each other, flaws and all. I promise to love you, support you, and grow with you through every chapter of our lives together." The ceremony was beautiful, and as they exchanged rings, Emma felt the weight of the moment settle in. This was the beginning of the rest of their lives, a life filled with love, adventure, and endless possibilities. The celebration that followed was filled with laughter, music, and joy. Surrounded by their closest friends and family, Emma and Liam danced their first dance as husband and wife, lost in the moment, in each other. As the evening wore on, Emma looked around at the people she loved and felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude. This was everything she had dreamed of and more. She had built her art career, found love, and created a life she was proud of. But more than that, she had found someone who saw her, truly saw her, and loved her for who she was. The journey they had been on together was just beginning, and as they stood hand in hand, looking toward the future, Emma knew that with Liam by her side, they could face anything. Life would throw challenges their way, but they would face them together, just as they had faced everything else. And for the first time in her life, Emma knew without a doubt that she was exactly where she was meant to be. The love story she had once thought was impossible had become her reality, and it was more beautiful than she had ever imagined. Together, they had created a future full of love, dreams, and endless possibilities. And as they stepped into that future, hand in hand, Emma felt an overwhelming sense of peace. She had found the one person who truly understood her, who accepted her for all that she was, and with him, she knew her dreams would continue to come true. It wasn't just about the art or the success. It was about love, about building a life together, and about being the best versions of themselves, side by side. And as Emma and Liam danced into the night, surrounded by love, Emma knew that this was just the beginning of their beautiful journey together.